Namaste, a very happy evening to all my dear students, teacher, and the school administrative department. We welcome you all to our science session of Vidya Shakti. My name is Ashwita Malnad and I'm your science tutor. So, how are you all doing, students? Hope you all have good health. Good evening, Yadavat School. It's nice to see your message. Okay. So, last class, it was all about MCQ test. We had a very deep and enchanting knowledge about conservation of plant and animal chapter. And we also had a quick introduction for reproduction in animals chapter. Let us continue the topic reproduction in animals. When I was a kid like you, maybe in my eighth or ninth class, we had this particular chapter. The name of the chapter was Life Process Part 2, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 was regarding the plants, and Part 2 was regarding the animals. So it was very, uncomfortable chapter. It was like as if, girls were separate, boys were separate, and we were taught about this particular chapter back then. Okay. But now the time is changed. So students like you are more mature and knowledgeable. The reason these kind of topic is being kept at this particular grade is that the children should get the basic knowledge about reproduction. Okay. And it is very important. And I'm sure that you all are matured enough to understand the importance of the chapter. So instead of feeling uncomfortable, oh, what is ma'am teaching here? What are we supposed to learn? Why are we supposed to learn all this topic? Apart from keeping that in the mind, please be mature and with the complete interest of knowledge, learn these topics. Okay. Uh, Having said that, in the last class, we had discussed about the male and female reproductive organ, and we also discussed about the different type of reproduction. Okay, sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction, and you're pretty much clear about the plants, how the reproduction would happen, and this chapter is all about in the animals. And while I explain you about sexual reproduction, we have male reproductive organs. So the male reproductive organ includes a pair of testes or singular testes, and then two sperm ducts, and then a penis. So these are the male reproductive organs or the male gametes. Okay. And these male gametes produce sperms. And million of sperms are produced by the testes. So which sperms are very small in size, and it each has a head, a middle piece, and a tail. Okay. And it appears to be a single cell indeed. So I shall share you some image and explain about this topic in a much clear and precise manner. Give me a moment, children. Here we go. Hope you all can see my screen. Yes, this is how a sperm looks. So it has a head, middle part of the body, and a tail. And this is how the image of a male reproductive organ looks like. So the oval shape here is the testis. This is a penis. And you have sperm. Clear? So this is how a fertile egg looks like, and a sperm looks like this. We have more images for your better understanding. Okay, these are like snake shaped. Again, you can find the head, the middle part of the body, and the tail. Okay. Next is the female reproductive organ. So the female reproductive organs are a pair of ovaries, same like male, or I should have not erased it. Anyways, over here we have pair of testes, and then we have two sperm duct, okay, and a penis. This is male reproductive organ or male gametes, whereas a female reproductive organ has pair of ovaries, ಅಂಡಾಶಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ. Okay, oviducts, like a sperm duct. Here is a oviduct. We call it as fallopian tubes. And then a uterus, garbhakosha. Okay. So your textbook in the page number 15 also you have the image of a female reproductive organ which has the oviduct and uterus, ovary. Okay, ಒಂದ್ ಜೊತೆ ovaries ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ oviduct ಇರುತ್ತೆ, fallopian tubes ಇರುತ್ತೆ, uterus ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, so ಅದರ ಒಂದು image ನ I will show it here. This is how it looks like. So this part it has the ovaries, ovaries ಗಳಿರುತ್ತೆ, oviduct ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತು this part would be the uterus. Okay. ಅಂಡ್ ಈ ಯೂಟ್ರಸ್, ಈ ಗರ್ಭಕೋಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮಗುವಿನ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆ ಆಗೋದು. ಆ ಬೇಬಿ ಗ್ರೋಸ್, ಆರ್ ಮೆಡಿಕಲಿ ಆರ್ ಸೈಂಟಿಫಿಕ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಫೀಟಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಬೇಬಿ ಇಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಔಟ್, ಅಂಟಿಲ್ ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಫೀಟಸ್. So this is about the female, male and female reproductive organ. ಈಗ ಮೇಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಗೆಟ್ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ರೀಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್. ಅದೇ ತರ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ರೀಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ಓವಾ. ಓವಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ OVA, ಓವಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇನ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಮೆಚ್ಯೂರ್ಡ್ ಎಗ್ ಇಸ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ಓವಿಡಕ್ಟ್. ಓವಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ, ಓವಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಫೆಲೋಪಿಯನ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಸ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ, this one, or here rather I'll show you this part, we call it as oviduct. ಆ oviduct ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎಗ್ಸ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಮೆಚೂರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಎಗ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ತಿಂಗಳು, ಎವ್ರಿ ಮಂತ್. ಸೊ ಯೂಟ್ರಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ವೇರ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ fetus or baby takes place, like the sperm and egg is also a single cell. Okay, it's very much clear and to be understood. Sperm is sperm and egg, these both are single cell. ಒಂದು ಜೀವಕೋಶ. ಸೊ ಈ ಎರಡು ಜೀವಕೋಶದಿಂದ ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಹೊಸದೊಂದು ಜೀವಕೋಶ ಹುಟ್ಟುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಅದನ್ನೇ ಕೂಡ ದಟ್ itself we have explained you in this particular image. Like egg, you get the sperm, it gets attached. Though millions of sperms come, there is only one sperm that get attached to the egg. And that single sperm, ನೀವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. That ಅದು 4 ಭಾಗವಾಗಿ ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. And then it forms the zygote. Okay, zygote in the embryo, embryo in the fetus, fetus in the baby. This is how the reproduction in animals takes place. Clear, children? Easy to understand? Okay, any doubts, any difficulties, please feel free to revert. So, and you must also be, you have to know that zygote is the beginning of a new individual. Okay. ಸೊ ಎಗ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಅ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಎಗ್, ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಎಗ್ ಅಥವಾ ಆಸ್ಟ್ರಿಚ್ ತರ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಎಗ್ ಸಹ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. ಓಕೆ. So this was about the male and female reproduction ಅಥವಾ reproductive organ. Now, let us go ahead and learn about another important topic, that is fertilization. We know about the fertile land. ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ಫಲವತ್ತತೆಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. So which land do we call fertile land? We can, where you can sow the seeds and the seeds germinate into small plants turn into crop and start giving the yield. We call that as a fertilized land. But what about a human body? What do we understand about fertilization here? See, the first step in the process of reproduction is the fusion of a sperm and a ovum. Okay. Time and again, I have to show you the same picture because while explaining with one single picture, I can't explain the entire chapter. And but the entire chapter is dealt in one single picture. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಓವಮ್ gets in fusion for the reproduction. When sperm comes in contact with an egg, one of the sperm may fuse with the egg. Okay, such fusion of the egg and the sperm is called as fertilization. ಈಗ ಒಂದು egg male, I had told you, the female reproductive organ produces one single matured egg. Every month it gets produced. Whereas the male reproductive organ, apparently male gamete produce millions of sperms. So millions of sperm ಅಲ್ಲಿ only one sperm get attached to the egg. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಆ ಎಗ್ಗೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗುವಂತಹ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಅಲ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗುವಂತಹದ್ಕೆ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ fertilization. Okay, fusion of the egg and the sperm is called as fertilization. You can, if you have opened your textbook, you can underline that particular point or take a note saying that the fusion of egg and the sperm is called fertilization. During the fertilization, the nuclei of the sperm and the egg fuse to form a single nucleus. This result in the formation of a fertilized egg or a zygote. ನಾ ಆಗ್ಲೇ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ದಂಗೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ದಂಗೆ ಇದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಓವಮ್ ಸೇರಿ ಹೊಸದೊಂದು ಜೀವ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯಾಗುತ್ತೆ and we call it as zygote. Okay, and this zygote is the beginning of new individual. The process of fertilization is the meeting of an egg cell from the mother and a sperm cell from the father. Okay, so the new individual inherits some characteristics from the mother and some from the father. Look at your brother or sister. See if you can recognize some characters in them similar to those of your mother or your father. ಅಮ್ಮನ್ ತರಾನೇ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅಮ್ಮನ್ ತರಾನೇ ಗುಂಗುರು ಕೂದ್ಲಿದೆ, ಅಪ್ಪನಷ್ಟೇ ಹೈಟ್ ಇದೆ, ಅಮ್ಮನ್ ತರಾನೇ ಧ್ವನಿ ಇದೆ. ಹೇಳಿರ್ತೀರಲ್ವಾ, ಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಕಲರ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಇನ್ಹೆರಿಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಸಮ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಯೋರ್ ಮದರ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಫಾದರ್. ಓಕೆ, ಬೈಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಸೇಮ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಮ್ಮಂದೇ ಬುದ್ಧಿ ಇರೋದು ನಿನ್ಗೆ ಅಂತ. ಒಳ್ಳೇದೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಓಕೆ ನಂತರ, ತಪ್ಪು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸೇಮ್ ನಿಮ್ಮಮ್ಮ ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮಪ್ಪ ತರ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಈ ತರವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು. From the mother, you get the egg or ovum. From the father, we get the sperm. The fusion of these, we call it as fertilization. This gives birth to zygote, and zygote is the beginning of a new individual. Clear, children? Okay. So now let's go further. Fertilization, which takes place inside the female body, is called internal fertilization. Okay, ದೇಹದ ಒಳಗೆ ನಡೆಯುವಂತಹ ಈ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ನ we call it as internal fertilization. Internal fertilization occur in many animals including humans, cows, dogs and hens. Okay, so ಅವು ಕೂಡ ಮಗುಗೆ ಜನ್ಮ ಕೊಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅವು ಕೂಡ ಮಗುಗೆ ಜನ್ಮ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಕೌ ಹಸು ಕರುನ ಹುಟ್ಟಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಡಾಗ್ ಪಪ್ಪಿ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ನಾಯಿ ಮರಿಯನ್ನ ಹುಟ್ಟಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಕೋಳಿ ಕೋಳಿ ಮರಿನ ಹುಟ್ಟಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಹೌದಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ಕೋಳಿ ಮೊಟ್ಟೆಯನ್ನ ಇಡುತ್ತೆ. ಮೊಟ್ಟೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸಮಯ ಆದ ನಂತರ ಕೋಳಿ ಮರಿಯಾಗಿ ಪರಿವರ್ತನೆಗೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಸ್ ಬೇಬೀಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಬೇಬೀಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಯಾ, ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಬೇಬೀಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಸೊ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ದ ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್. ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಟ್ರೂ? ಯಾದವಾಡ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್? The fusion of the egg and the sperm is called fertilization. I repeat, the fusion of the egg and the sperm is called fertilization. Okay, great. So now, have you heard about test tube babies? Test tube babies ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆಯುವಂತ ಬೇಬೀಸ್. ಹೌದಾ? ಹಿಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಬೇಬೀಸು. ಒಂದು ಲ್ಯಾಬೊರೇಟರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಎಗ್, ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಎಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಎರಡನ್ನು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಎರಡು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದು ಟ್ಯೂಬಲ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಟ್ಯೂಬಲ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಟ್ಯೂಬಲ್ ಮಗು ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ಮಗು ಬೆಳೆದು ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗುತ್ತೋ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಒಡೆದು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಡೆದು ಹೋಗಿ ಮಗುನ ತೆಗಿತಾರೆ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ ದ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಬೇಬೀಸ್ ಗ್ರೋ. How many of you are going to tell this is the right way of test tube babies? Can I have some answers? At least some responses? Whatever I told now, is it right? The babies that grow in tubes is called as test tube babies. Wrong. The term is actually misleading. When we tell test tube babies, people think that babies that grow in test tubes are called as test tube babies. No. Babies cannot grow in test tubes. Okay. There are certain times women cannot bear babies because their oviducts are blocked or the sperms cannot reach the egg for fertilization. So again, doctors would tell that we shall collect freshly released eggs and sperm and keep them together for few hours for IVF. Here, IVF ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು? Yadav at school, we don't know about it, ma'am. Okay, ma'am is here to teach you. IVF ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ in vitro fertilization. Okay. So ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ internal fertilization ಅಂತ most ಅಲ್ಲ a maximum of the women, cow, animals, dog, hen, everything the fertilization happens internally when the male gametes produces sperms and the female gametes produces ovum. When they both culminate, when they both get into the fusion, we have the fertilization that happens internally within the female body. But in some cases, when the oviduct is blocked or when sperms cannot reach the egg, in such cases, the doctors would collect the egg and the sperm and they kept together for few hours, and this process is called as in vitro fertilization, the fertilization that occurs outside the body. Okay. In case fertilization occurs, the zygote is allowed to develop for about few weeks and then it is placed into the mother's uterus. ಓಕೆ, ಆಚ್ ಕಡೆನೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಝೈಗೋಟ್ ನ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆ ಆಗಕ್ ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ತಾಯಿಯ ಗರ್ಭಕೋಶಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Complete development takes place in the uterus and the baby is born like any other baby. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಆ ಒಂದು ಝೈಗೋಟ್ ನ ತಾಯಿಯ ಗರ್ಭಕೋಶಕ್ಕೆ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಾದ ನಂತರ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಗರ್ಭಾಶಯದ ನಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಆ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಮುಂದುವರಿಯುತ್ತೆ ಅಂಡ್ ಒಂದು ತಾಯಿಯ ಒಂದು ಮಗು ಹೇಗೆ ಜನನ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ರೀತಿನೇ ಜನನ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಬೇಬೀಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Okay, so we call it as IVF or in vitro fertilization. Now is it clear? Right? So we have to know that many animals fertilization takes place outside the body of the female. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಈ ಬರೀ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸೈಂಟಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೊಸ ಆವಿಷ್ಕಾರ ಆಗಿ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಬೆಳೆದಿರೋದು ಅಂತ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಬಾಡಿನೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ ದೀಸ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಇನ್ ವಾಟರ್. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಅನಿಮಲ್ ಅದ್ ಹೇಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸೊ ನೀವ್ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಪಾಂಡ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ನೀರ್ ನಿಂತಿರೋ ಜಾಗಗಳಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಮಳೆಗಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರೂ ಹೋದಾಗ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಅ ಕ್ಲಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಫ್ ರೌಂಡ್ ಕಲರ್ ಎಗ್ಸ್ ಬೀನ್ ಫ್ಲೋಟಿಂಗ್. ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅನುಭವಕ್ಕೆ ಈಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಬಂದಿರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಬಾರ್ದೇನೆ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಈ ತರನಾಗಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಈ ತರ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ಎಗ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಿಸ್. ಏನಿರಬಹುದು ಅದು? ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸ್ಪ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ರೈನಿ ಸೀಸನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಫೈಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಫ್ರಾಕ್ಸ್ ಎಗ್. ಫ್ರಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಪ್ಪೆ. Okay, frogs and frogs move to ponds and slow flowing stream. When the male and female come together in water, the female lays hundreds of eggs, unlike hens or egg ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ತರ ಎಗ್ ಹೊರತುಪಡಿಸಿ the frog eggs ನ 100 of eggs ನ ಲೇ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. and you have to know this eggs is not covered in the shell. ಕೋಳಿ ಮೊಟ್ಟೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ಶೆಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ವೈಟ್ ಕಲರ್ ಶೆಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಈ ಒಂದು ಮೊಟ್ಟೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಶೆಲ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. And they are very delicate. A layer of jelly holds the egg together and provides protection to the egg. So, as the eggs are laid, the male deposits sperms over them. Each sperm swims randomly in water with the help of its long tail. The sperm come in contact with the eggs. The result is fertilization. This type of fertilization, which where the fusion of a male and female gamete takes place outside of the body, we call it as external fertilization. Clear? We have basically two type of fertilization. One is internal, which happens in most of the human body, as well as like hen, cow, dogs, etc. And we also have external fertilization. The biggest example I can give you is of the frog, where the fertilization of the egg and the sperm happens outside the body. So it is very much common in most of the aquatic animals, not just frogs. Frog is a amphibian. Amphibian andre which can survive both inside the water as well as outside the water, that is land. However, there are other aquatic animals like fish, starfish, etc., which also undergo external fertilization. Okay. Though these animals lay hundreds of eggs and release millions of sperm, all the eggs do not get fertilized and develop into new individual. This is because the eggs and sperms get exposed to water movement, wind, and rainfall. Also, there are other animals in the pond which may feed on eggs. Thus, production of large number of eggs and sperm is necessary to ensure fertilization of at least a few of them. Okay, so ಅಷ್ಟು ಮೊಟ್ಟೆಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಮರಿಗಳಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಮರಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಉಳಿಯೋದು ಕೆಲವೊಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ. ಓಕೆ, ಈಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಡೌಟ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಶೋನ್ ಅ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸೆಲ್, ಒಂದು ಮೊಟ್ಟೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಇಷ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೆ and sperm would be something like this, and how this would get converted into such big body? ಹೇಗೆ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಕುತೂಹಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೊಂತಾ ಹೋಗೋಣ ಬೈ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಂಬ್ರಿಯೋ. ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದಾಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಯು ಅಬೌಟ್ the male and female gametes again with points here. Okay, so this is a male reproductive organ. This part would be a bladder. Okay, urinary bladder. This is called as seminal vesicle ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಇದನ್ನ. ಇದನ್ನ prostate ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಇದನ್ನ vas deferens ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Don't worry, you need not have to learn these points for exam. But for your knowledge, I'm showing you. This part is called urethra. Okay, and this is penis. This is epididymis, and this is testicle. Okay, please look at this image. But what you have to know from the exam point of view ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದದ ಭಾಗ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದನ್ನ we call it as sperm duct. ಎರಡಿದೆ, ಒಂದ್ ಜೊತೆ sperm duct ಇರುತ್ತೆ, and you have penis here. And this oval shaped is called as testis. Single one is called as testicle. Dual one, ಎರಡು ಸೇರಿ testis ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, penis. And then this one is called as, you have to tell, sperm duct. Okay, ma'am, ಒಬ್ರೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. Even you have to speak. This is about male reproductive organ. Female reproductive organ would be like this. So this is called as uterine tube. This is a fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is also called as oviduct. Okay, oviduct andre fallopian tube. This is fimbriae anta karitare. This is ovary. This is endometrium. This is myometrium. This is cervix, and this is vagina. Okay, this is the female reproductive organ. But from exam point of view, you have to learn about oviduct, that is fallopian tube, ovaries, ಈ ಭಾಗ ovaries ಕರ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. And then this is uterus. This entire part is uterus. I repeat, fallopian tube or oviduct, ovaries, and then the entire uterus. Okay, these are the female reproductive organs in humans. In the next session, when we have, let us understand how an embryo would develop into a fetus or a baby. So ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು next class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. Meanwhile, how did you find today's class? Can we have some response? Did you find it interesting? No, ma'am, we don't need to give response now, isn't it? Okay. So there is another image which I had to show you. See, I told you a test tube baby cannot be grown in such a way, whereas a test tube baby can be grown in this kind of an environment where to the female reproductive organ, the fertilized zygote is being injected through IVF. From that, the baby growth is normal like any other child. So this is how the growth of a child does happen. Clear? This was about today's session where we understood about male and female reproductive organ, about fertilization, internal fertilization, external fertilization. External fertilization can also happen in human. That is because of IVF. Okay, when the oviduct is blocked or when the male sperm cannot reach the female reproductive organ, in those situations, external reproduction may happen. Apart from human, there are other animals also which undergo for external reproduction like aquatic animals and frogs. In the next class, let us understand how an embryo of an embryo, a zygote would happen into an embryo and then a fetus and the baby. Clear? Hope this class was interesting to you. Let's meet in the next session. Until then, take good care of yourself. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka Mate, Jai Vidya Shakti. Namaste.